Hello and welcome back to Blood, Guts, and Social Commentary. Today is the 7th and final installment of our look at controversial art through the decades. 2007, My Sweet Lord. Yes, this is a very large statue of the crucifixion. And yes, as the title may imply, it's made of chocolate. It's also anatomically correct, because apparently every time you try and portray Jesus, he has to be a Ken doll. Yeah, I got nothing here. 2007, You Are What You Read. This work included the artist burning 175 pieces of crack and an ounce of weed. I feel like I'm reading the intro to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This work also included a very obviously underfed dog tied to the wall by some rope, and the phrase, "You are what you read," written on the wall in dog food. The biggest controversy about this piece wasn't the drugs, it was the dog. While I'm not going to get into a whole he said, she said about this, one side is claiming that the artist underfed the dog and that the dog died at the gallery. The artist and the gallery owner both claim that the dog was a street dog that they found. They were feeding it, the dog escaped and did not die at the gallery. The images I found in relation to the claim of the dog's death, frankly, I can't tell if it's a dead dog or a sleeping dog. It's impossible to tell from the static image. It absolutely looks like my dogs when they're sleeping, but it very may well have been dead. I have no idea. One thing the artist did point out, though, is that at no point did anybody attempt to get into the exhibit and rescue the dog, which to me is pretty telling, because this means they valued gallery etiquette of not crossing ropes for the life of an animal, which begs the question, when does politeness end and violating it to save something begin? 2008 Miscarriage Project. I'm including this one because it's still talked about, even though it's been revealed to be a massive hoax and a troll. A Yale student claimed that she periodically got pregnant and had abortions. She then made art from the fetuses. This all came to light when the Yale Daily News did an article on it. When people got upset, she explained she hadn't done any of that work and it was all just creative fiction. The image I'm showing you is supposedly brain slices from her aborted fetuses, but anybody that knows anything about fetus development, there is no way that could be a brain slice in the time period she would have been able to abort it. Either way, this piece became controversial because of what it claimed to be and not so much because of what it was, and it is being included. 2009 Marcus Harvey, Maggie. This is the second controversial portrait from Marcus Harvey on this list. This is Margaret Thatcher's face made out of aluminum, plaster, skulls, phallic-shaped fruit, and dildos, because that's not subtle at all. Also, him calling her Maggie instead of Margaret is a pretty big middle finger to her in general. 2010, A Fire in My Belly. This exhibit was pulled from the National Gallery of Art because it had a video of a crucifix being covered in ants. Christians felt this was blasphemous, especially in juxtaposition to homosexuality that was also included in the exhibit. The artist maintained that the video in question was to symbolize the pain of AIDS. To make matters worse, this exhibit just so happened to go up around Christmas, which Christians felt was a massive slight at them. The NGA maintained that it was not done intentionally, but they pulled the work anyway, just to be on the safe side. 2010, I'm Not Jesus Mommy. This movie got a lot of buzz on the festival circuit, but Comcast had to pull advertising for it as well as its video-on-demand release. If you're going off title alone, I can see where you could find this offensive. The movie is also heavily about human cloning, so if you're opposed to cloning, also again, that's where you would have found it offensive. The controversy has since died down and this movie is now widely available. I even saw it on Comcast through a video-on-demand release. 2010, Eminem featuring Rihanna, Love the Way You Lie. I said I was only going to do Eminem once on this list, but A, this was brought up to me and I never heard the song, and B, it features Rihanna, so I'm saying workaround. Anyway, the controversy behind this is both performers haven't been necessarily subtle about their past history with abuse. Eminem wrote plenty of songs about it that were all addressed in earlier videos. Rihanna, unfortunately, had hers very public publicly put out there. I don't know if she would have done it otherwise, but we know what happened between her and Chris Brown. Considering both of the performers' histories and the lyrics in this song, I think people are slightly misinterpreting it. I think they are talking about an abusive relationship, but I think they're trying to talk about almost a mutually abusive relationship. The reason I say that is because Eminem does have the line, it's like when a tornado meets a hurricane, implying both have nasty tempers. Which still isn't good, it still isn't healthy, but they do exist, and I'm not saying they're speaking autobiographically, but I don't believe this is a song where either of them is trying to encourage you to hit the person you're with. 2010, a Serbian film. This one has just now taken the top billing for most offensive movie, most graphic movie, most shocking movie, most any kind of insert thing here movie. This movie features rape, incest, pedophilia, genital mutilation, and several other acts. The best way to describe it is imagine every single taboo, sexual or not, put on screen. This movie was heavily censored in its release, but a more uncensored version has come out. The problem with the censored version of this movie is so over the top and so graphic and so offensive that when you took out the offensive parts, the movie didn't make any sense anymore and there was barely any movie left. I mean, there's a scene in here that is described only as the newborn porn scene. I kind of do and don't want to see the film that knocks this out because as far as everybody's concerned, this is the furthest anybody's ever gone. This is just going to be some miscellaneous stuff that is controversial and it should be here, but it didn't necessarily warrant its own entry. The first is Sizzla, Beanie Man, and Buju Banton. All three of these artists have songs that cause them to be barred from entering and performing in certain countries. All three of these songs have lyrics that encourage violence against homosexuals, which cause these bans from their public performances. Frankenstein, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings aren't three books you would necessarily pair together, but all three have had religious rights groups upset over satanic content. Same thing with Twilight, but there seems to be this big underlying debate of some people say, well, it's anti-Christian. In a few places, some of these books are hailed as having heavy Christian overtone. Just like the books we saw earlier in this series that were like, no, it's communism. Well, yeah, it's communism. You can't please everybody. Everybody's going to come at it from their own end, and controversy is subjective. This is just a category unto itself, serial killer artwork. Many serial killers and criminals take up painting while they're in prison. This entire genre is considered controversial due to not only people feeling convicts are having luxuries, even though a lot of these paintings are sometimes a part of art therapy to help them get past whatever caused them to kill people. People are also concerned that they're going to start selling these works and turning a profit. From my understanding, and I'm not a lawyer and I don't speak fluent legalese, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. Due to Son of Sam laws, the person involved in the crime, i.e. the killer, and the police officers that investigated the crime, neither of them can profit off of something like this. I'm sure there's some kind of workaround somewhere, some way in doing this, but it's one of those things, there aren't that many living serial killers still, and those seem to be the one that draw the highest demand for this type of thing. I see where the problem is, but I can't see the police force dedicating this much time to it. This concludes my controversial art timeline. If you liked what you hear, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like it or I forgot one of your favorite pieces, let me know. If there's a piece you want me to speak in more in depth about, I'm fine doing that too. Thank you very much.